there's a lot of hair splitting going on here.
Yes.
And I guess the point is that they want to create an SUV for every last person out there, depending on what size you want and how much you want to spend.
Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show about cars, the car industry, and driving in general, with a little bit of opinions thrown in there. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61 in Hartford. And joining me is Glenn Packman from beautiful Fairfield County, a car enthusiast. And from Chicago, Jeff Buchholz from WBBM. Welcome, gentlemen. This week, I want to talk about how many is too many. How many SUVs can you fit on the head of a pin, or in your website, or in your showroom, or any of that? And I'm looking at, I want to start looking at Chevrolet, because they have a lot of them. They have 9. When you look at their website, they come up with a big picture of 9 vehicles. And that is the Trax, the Trailblazer, the Equinox, which comes in 2 flavors, gas and electric, like a stove. Blazer, also gas and electric. A Traverse, a Tahoe, and a Suburban, ranging in base price MSRP from $20,000 up to nearly $60,000. And I just think, for me, and maybe it's the names, it just feels like a blur of cars. I think they segment that market really well, but I don't know if there's so much distinction within any of that. And I'm wondering, Glenn, what do you think about the massive amounts of SUVs on the market?
Well, it's clearly become the car that Americans want. We're just not interested really in sedans anymore, and that's the shape of the car that people want to drive. The mid-size, the Equinox size car is the best-selling segment in the U.S. And with good reasons. I mean, they're easy to drive. They haul a lot. It's a good car for a lot of people, so that's great. But there's a lot of hair splitting going on here.
Yes.
And I guess the point is that they want to create an SUV for every last person out there, depending on what size you want and how much you want to spend. So all the more colors in the rainbow, but that creates less distinct colors in the rainbow, if you know what I mean. It's harder to delineate. My personal feeling is, take a look at sales and just trim the ones that aren't doing that well. For me, it's all the big honking huge ones that I have zero interest in, but that's me as a person. It's ironic because I don't really understand where the Trailblazer fits into all this.
Right.
I think
Right.
I think that's a car that's going to get edged out by the Trax, because the new Trax is really a good design at a good price, and they've done it right, as opposed to the old Trax, which was none of those things.
Right.
I guess the old Trax was a good place to start, but the Trailblazer seems to be filling a very small void. The irony, as we all know, I bought the Buick Encore GX, which is Buick's version of that car. But in Buick's lineup, it seems to make more sense, maybe because there's less Buicks out there.
Right.
There's 4 as opposed to 9. So I suppose if it's not killing GM in a cost sense, then great, all the better, I suppose. But it does make the brand murky. So, and I think that's the biggest problem, is that it's harder to pitch a brand when you've got so many different flavors.
Okay.
It's not
Jeff?
Baskin-Robbins.
I think that we are approaching this question, in particular as it deals with Chevrolet, without really considering how the auto industry and how auto buyers have changed. Let's think about 1977 for a minute. Let's run through the Chevrolet lineup from 1977.
Okay.
Sure.
Chevette, Vega, Monza, Nova, Chevelle, Monte Carlo, Impala, Caprice. Am I forgetting any? Camaro, Corvette.
Right.
That's 10 cars. That's 10 cars.
Right. But I would
Two
argue,
of which were on the same platform, Impala and Caprice, and two others that were on the same platform, Vega and Monza.
right.
Two others on the same platform, Chevelle and Monte Carlo. I don't know that anybody was any more confused about what Chevrolet was in 1977 than they are in 2024 or 5.
But and maybe because I spent a lot of time in that era, like
Yeah.
looking at these cars,
Yes.
but I felt like, with the exception of Chevette and Vega, which I think is partially because it's an overlap of the Vega is being outroed and the Chevette is coming in, but I think all of those have a very distinct market. You know, I think that I think that they're really clear about the difference between the Monte Carlo and the Caprice, or the Monte Carlo and the Chevelle, and
Yeah.
all those things. But I would wonder, what if you sat down with GM's product planners, Chevy's product planners, tell me the differences between the Equinox and the Blazer, or the Equinox and the Trailblazer, or you know, or like, where, how do you fit that?
I mean, I think, and clearly they have market research that shows that people are going to buy these cars. And let's remember that Chevrolet doesn't sell cars anymore, except for the Corvette. Like, they don't sell traditional cars anymore. You know, the Malibu's done, I think. I think this is the last year for the Malibu,
Yeah,
right?
they're still selling it, but yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there isn't anything else. And so what you're doing is you're selling a specific set of features at a specific price point. You want a super inexpensive, good looking, high feature, smallish SUV, check out that Trax. If you want all of those things but 4-wheel drive, here's the Trailblazer. If you want a little more room in front and the availability of 4-wheel drive, welcome to the it's the dawning of the age of Equinox. Do you like the Traverse, but you're just not sure you're going to use that third row? Go get a Blazer. And do you think all of those are wimpy cars and you just want a big truck? Then say hello to the Tahoe. I mean, yes, I agree. On surface, there are similarities, and the Chevrolet design language isn't doing them any favors by making them look so very much like everyone else. And I think I've said this on this podcast before, like most things I've said on this podcast before, because I only have 7 original thoughts. But how upset was Chevrolet when Ford came out with the Bronco Sport? And we're like, oh my gosh, we could have done that. We could have made this super cool little K5 looking Blazer. Instead, we made it into a Traverse, only not as much, and really missed an opportunity there to tie into the great heritage of, I think, sort of the golden age of Chevy truck design. And so I think the distinctions are confusing to us, A, because maybe we're not in the market so much for that, and B, because we don't think about we're not thinking about the car business the way other people are. I think a lot of people still think of the car business as being the car business, when in fact it's the SUV business now, and you just kind of go where the people are.
Right. Yeah. I have a quick question, a little bit of a sidebar, but what would a classic, if we were going to throw back many years ago, what would a classic Chevy look like? Because like the Bronco Sport is a throwback to the original Broncos, boxy and very utility oriented. We talked about Jeep. They definitely have a specific design language from years ago.
Right.
But I don't know what a Chevy SUV truck thing would look like. Scraping my brain, and
there are a few visual cues. The primary one is sort of that big bar across that sort of bisects the grill situation, the down the road graphic. You have that with the bow tie in the middle.
Mid-90s.
Right, exactly. And typically, well, on the trucks, the wheel wells are squared off.
Mhm.
On the F-150s, they're rounded. And that spills over a little, that could spill over a little bit into the car design.
Gotcha.
You know, I mean, you had, back when you had 5 different divisions in the US that were building passenger cars, you had specific designers for each division that could take the base materials, the body in white, and turn it into something else, or turn it
Right.
into the thing that it needed to be. The Chevy would also have 3-segment taillights.
Mhm.
One of those taillights might be a reversing light, one of them might be a turn signal, but they were all 2 or 3-segment. They're mostly 2-segment now because that's what the Corvette is. But that would also be a design cue. That was an Impala, famous Impala design
Yeah,
cue for years.
did they
Right.
have 1, 2, and 3?
There was
Like,
two.
in the
There was
late
two.
50s.
Yeah, there were 2, and then there were 3.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, that dates, you're right, that dates back to like the 58s, I think, really
Yeah.
went, did that kind of had that kind of a look. And then reached its pinnacle, I think, in well, I mean, I think the 65 and 66 are the best looking of that generation, but particularly sleek and gorgeous in that time. So I mean, those are some of the design cues, I guess.
Right.
And different models had different looks. Monte Carlos were always more sculpted in the fender area, which
Mhm.
looked cool in the early to mid 70s, less cool in the Dale Earnhardt ones. um,
Yeah, but that first gen Monte Carlo,
it's
that
gorgeous,
was a
classic
beautiful car.
design, classic, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, a dynamite car. I just, it is. It's Chevy sells a lot of SUVs, but Chevy and Ford are, they're SUV companies. I mean, how many does
Right.
Ford have? There's,
Okay, and I can answer that question.
thank you.
Take it away,
Ford,
Doug.
Ford has an Escape, a Bronco Sport, both starting around 29,000. I was sort of surprised that their price was so similar.
Mhm.
The Bronco goes up to 39,000, which is very close base price to the Explorer for 39,000. The Mach-E, and I'm going to put it in here that it's an SUV.
Yes, I agree.
And is 39 also, and the Expedition is 55. And I
Okay.
don't know if there is a distinction. I don't know if they still make an Expedition XL, but
They
I
do.
would assume it's
They do.
more expensive than that.
A little bit
But
more.
that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. And I think Ford can get away with that because it has the Maverick.
Yep.
Which is a
Mhm.
little bit, I think the base price, no one buys it for that, but I think the base price is a shade lower than the Escape /
Yeah.
Bronco Sport, even though
Right.
it's, again, thank you, Ford, it's the same platform.
Right.
So
And I think Ford, I see Ford as being really delineating each of those things. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot the Edge. The Edge is
well,
38.
Are they still?
the edge is going away, and
Okay.
that's the one segment where the difference between the Escape and the Edge to the person sort of looking outside is not all that clear.
Right. Right.
I mean,
I
there
think
is
it's just the third row, right?
Edges don't have third rows.
No, they
Edge
don't.
is a
That,
2-row.
that's what I
Edge
mean.
is a
That's
2-row
what the
SUV. Yeah.
Explorer has.
It-
Yeah.
A little
Oh,
bigger,
okay.
a
I'm
little
sorry.
stockier. Yeah.
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 The and the Edge was, and of course the Escape is based on the Focus, and the Edge was based on the Fusion, and it's
Yeah.
just a matter of kind of H points and how much room is on the inside. I mean, the
Yeah.
Edge is noticeably roomier inside than an Escape is. And I mean, that's kind of what the difference is between those two cars.
Yeah.
But
going back, going back to my point, like all those things are really clear. There, there's not a lot of their Venn diagrams don't really overlap all that much, other than kind of in general stuff. So that's where I think Ford has it a little clearer, and I think Toyota has a boatload, but
well,
they're
yeah.
also, I think they also are very distinct models. I mean,
So so Toyota starts with the Corolla Cross. Is that where you're
Yep.
starting them?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Corolla Cross RAV4 20, Corolla Cross is 23, RAV4 28.
Yeah.
the Venza, which is 35,
And
the
that's going away.
Highlander, yeah, the Highlander 39, the BZ4X, which is 43, the Grand Highlander, which is also 43. And then you have the Forerunner, the Land Cruiser. Forerunner is 40, Land Cruiser is 56, and the Sequoia is 62.
Forgot about the Sequoia.
A
Well, of
lot
course,
people
the Venza is going away. It'll be replaced by the Crown Signia, I think, this year.
Right. I don't have the Crown Signia on this list.
Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah, the issue is, I think, where yeah, there's some sort of niche, sort of wedging that Chevy is doing a little bit with a couple of these, but they clearly, and my guess is when they can build the tracks with all-wheel drive, the Trailblazer is going to go away. The
Probably.
Trailblazer is there specifically to compete with in that small SUV space for people who feel like they need all-wheel drive, the people who might otherwise look at a this is the Subaru, the Crosstrek. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Crosstrek,
Impressive Crosstrek, yeah.
Right. That's what that, and I think, does the Hyundai Venue have all-wheel drive? I think it does. No? Okay.
No, not yet.
That's the space where that thing lives, I think.
Right.
And
Little,
once they can get GM Korea to build Traxxas with all-wheel drive, then they don't need the Trailblazer anymore.
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna get edged out. Unfortunately, I just bought the Buick version of that car, and I think the same thing's gonna happen there because the Invista is such a statement. And talk about there's one they got right. But I think maybe this leads into the next thing, is that I think we're gonna see natural attrition over the years of some of these lines. I think it's gonna suss itself out. Or if it doesn't, that just means that there's a market for all these lines. It creates a blur, but people still, will pick out what they want. And I think a lot of it comes down to, I saw this on TV, I saw this in the parking lot, my friend has fill in the blank. The car that I want is, go from there. The Americans have been pretty good about that. I mean, we've changed up the whole market from sedans to SUVs and within my lifetime for sure. And that's what they want. So you give the people what they want, but you can't please all the people all the time. Somebody said that.
Well, you just said it. Do you mean before?
I did. Before me, believe it or not. Believe it or not. We were talking about Chevy and their, and I was like, well, so paint me a picture of what it looks like retro-wise. But it also hit me that when Chevy tries to do a retro, we end up with the SSR or the HHR. Neither of which
Jeff sent around. Unique cars are good for the spirit.
I think so.
And my comment back was that, for me as kind of the introvert, like the last thing I want to do is stand out. I want to stand out just this much.
Sure.
But, and so good. Okay. So those cars, well, and the HHR, I take over the PT Cruiser. I know they were designed by the same guy.
They were. The HHR is about a half size bigger, I think, than the PT. And I agree. I would do that. I would take that as well.
And the SSR, very cool. Not for me, but very cool. Right.
Good idea. But it's during this period. It was from this period of time when GM was just trying everything. Just kind of throwing, Bob Lutz was at the tower, and it was just, let's do this. Let's build this wacky pickup truck. Let's make this Solstice out of stuff we found laying around the vending machines at the tech center. Let's drag this two-door coupe over from Australia and sell it as a GTO. Let's just let's just sell all the cars.
Right.
Jeff, can you tell your Bob Lutz story?
I was in a scrum interviewing Bob Lutz at the reveal of the then new Buick LaCrosse, and during this press conference, it was revealed that the Buick LaCrosse was sold in Canada as the Buick Allure, because lacrosse apparently is a French Canadian euphemism for
Self-pleasuring.
self-abuse.
Oh,
And and Bob Lutz
really?
said, I grew up in a French Canadian household. I thought I knew all the synonyms for self-abuse there were.
Uh, it's hysterical.
Didn't you also track down his email?
No, I never did.
Okay, I thought you.
No, I would never contact the man himself. That's no.
Okay, my mistake.
I assumed that his assistant was a lot like Jonathan from 30 Rock. Sort of ready to kneecap anybody who would come within 5 feet of the Sun King.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will probably take that out, but I just
Okay.
enjoy that story.
No, you can leave it in. I don't care.
Okay.
It was a funny moment, and it was like I get to stand in a gaggle with like a bona fide automotive legend. Like,
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about press days at auto shows, as you guys know, is you get to see all of these people.
Yeah. I remember seeing him at the LA Auto Show, and they had announced the departure of the president, the higher ups, like during the flight to LA. So the following
This
morning,
is awkward.
Bob Lutz is there, and he's kind of going, well, so we don't have any news. Sorry.
Nothing going on. Show's over.
Yeah. Anyway,
Just as a sidebar, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm being photobombed by my cat.
oh, right.
Yeah,
Which cat is that?
that's Jake. That's Jakey.
Hi,
Come here.
Jake.
Hello, Jake.
Jake is the size. Jake's about the size of a Chevy Trax. He's
And he has all-wheel drive.
yeah. He ran away. Okay. Anyway.
So I mean, I spent some time today making lists. So the Kia has the Soul, the Seltos, the Soul at 20, Seltos at 24, Sportage at 27, Sorento at 31, and the Telluride at 36. And then there's 3 EVs, the Nero, the EV6, and the EV9, ranging from 26 to 54, which I think is a fairly, they have a clear idea of what they want. The nicest list, the most neat list, is the BMW X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, X7, ranging from 41 to 83. So, and I think again, they have fine, clearly defined spaces in the market.
Right.
Though I can never tell the X1 from the X2. I don't know which is which to this point.
Oh, really?
Because I haven't seen many of them.
Oh, okay.
It's all after the C. It's from the C pillar back.
Okay.
Right. I think they don't have a window on the C pillar, and it's a more of a slopey thing.
Does the X2 have like the little roundel in the C pillar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I do know which one that is. Okay.
The big difference is the X2 is just lower. It's got much more of a wagonette sort of silhouette than the X1. I looked at both when we were buying, as a matter of fact, and the big reason that I didn't go with the X2 was it was more money for less car, and it had a really brittle ride, and that's saying a lot because the ride on the X1 was brittle enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
But there's a nice segmenting there is what it comes down to. It makes more sense. Audi does the same thing.
I didn't get to Audi, but
where all of their niches are.
It may be, and you hinted at this, I think, it may be that Chevrolet is in fact in the middle of sort of a transition with its SUV lineup. And maybe we are going to see the Trailblazer go away. I mean, I imagine the Blazer will stick around at least for a little while because, they've already paid for the tooling because it's basically the Traverse. It's just a matter of, it's a little shorter. And again, in the sort of transition of cars to sort of EV and hybrid platforms, it's like, well, which one of these is going to stick and which one is going to be, our, internal combustion offering, which one is our electric offering? Or Actually, Carlos Tavares from Stellantis was doing an interview the other day, and they were talking about the mix of gas and electric cars. And in the translation of what he said from Italian, the internal combustion cars got translated as thermal cars, which I actually think is a wonderful term. I may start using it.
Yeah, going back to something Jeff said, I think that Chevy missed a huge opportunity in not making a Bronco competitor out of the Blazer.
Oh my gosh.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
because
think
that's
there's
what
still.
the original Blazer was, what the
Mhm.
Bronco became,
Yeah.
the second gen became.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
No.
Yeah, it's too bad. This is a tiny sidebar. I'm thinking about this because a friend of mine right now is in Japan and sent me a picture of something that jogged my memory. So there's a company in Japan called Mitsuoka, and their unique selling proposition is that they take really mundane cars and attach to them new front ends and back ends and make them look like something else. The Mitsuoka Vute, for instance, is a Nissan Micra that looks like an old Jaguar. Like, it's really hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
So Mitsuoka has a car called the Buddy, which is a RAV4 that they have restyled the front and back ends on to look like an homage to a K5 Blazer. Complete with like the dog dish hubcaps. It's good. It's really good. and I wish they could sell them here because it would be hilarious.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh, that's fun.
Isn't that good?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
Take
no kidding.
yeah. Take
It
my
really-
money.
Yeah.
it's- that's kind of trippy because the front and the back are
Are
from
close enough.
1970, and then the
Right.
middle is a RAV4.
It's a RAV4. And the
Yeah.
front and the back are close
Wow.
enough, but not so close that GM's lawyers will call, right?
Right.
They're really clever. And they also will take Miatas. I think they've done this. They've taken Miatas and made them look like C2 Corvettes. There is a Mitsuoka that does that.
Wow.
It's so clever. And I saw that and I'm like, well, see, this is what the Blazer could have been.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sold every one.
Right.
If
Right.
if they
Oh.
disposed of the little like hash mark in the C pillar, that would I think that would solve a myriad of problems because that's very RAV4-y.
Mhm.
But man, this is what they should do with the Trailblazer. Make it a little bit bigger,
Mhm.
and do this. It's
Give it a
cool.
retro.
It's in the name. It's in the name. It says Trailblazer.
Blazer, right, exactly. I kind of want to own one of these. This is just,
Well, you'll have to wait about 20 years before
Yeah.
they'll be allowed
Right.
in under gray market. And then, of course, the steering wheel's on the wrong side. But I suppose the solution is
yeah.
the solution is buy a RAV4, keep it in the garage for 20 years, and then bring a Mitsuoka Buddy over and
Bridge
swap the
parts,
panels out.
Yeah.
That is really
Yeah,
clever.
yeah,
Yeah. Doug, I hope you
Yeah.
can put a picture of one of these in
I
because
will.
man,
I will. Yeah. I'll figure out
Yeah.
how to do that. All right.
yeah.
All right, gentlemen. That'll wrap it up for this week's show. Remember to find us on YouTube, like and subscribe. The whole list of Car-Pinionated episodes is there if you want to take a look. And with that, we will bid you adieu.